Hello everyone and welcome to the AOR PC Split 1 highlights for round 5 from Catalonia. My name is Justin and joining me once again is Joe.
Yes, hello everyone at home, and we are here, like Justin says, for the 5th round of Season 9 of the AOR PC Split 1 Championship. And, well, it was a great round last time, wasn't it, Justin? And a very, very close race between the Mercedes drivers. Let's hope it's the same today.
Yeah, it was a fantastic race. Last time out in China, it was the Mercedes of Hamish who took top honors with his teammate and current championship leader MarcoFD hot on his heels. Last season in China, it was Kiflo who took pole position with a 132.754, but he could only manage 7th in a race that Alex Gillen won ahead of Christian Nenov and F1 Daniel J. Enough about the past though, let's look to the present with a side-by-side qualifying comparison.
Welcome to AOR Season 9, the Spanish Grand Prix qualifying comparison between Jack First and AOR Hamish, as both drivers prepare to go over the line. DRS wide open under the Pirelli board. They are both at around the same top speed here, similar wing setup. Into turn 1, the most important turn, because it can make or break your lap pretty much already from the start. Both managed to stick through it pretty well as they go up the hill here through the right-hander. Very important to get a good traction off the both corners. Under the bridge you can see Jack First is already about half a tenth off on Hamish. He's down on his own time, but yeah, he's a very quick guy and he really pushes it through the first sector, but they are neck and neck again as they go under the Rolex board here. Hamish took a little more curbage out of the exit of the last corner as they both go up the hill now under the Rolex board, preparing for this right-hander. You have to stick it into 5th and then run high up the revs. DRS open for this little back straight as they both break down onto this very important hairpin. And you can see that Jack First is about a tenth up on Hamish now as they both go into the last sector with this right-hander uphill. Very tricky and easy to lose the back end on that part of the track. Final bits and pieces of the sector here as we go through this horrible chicane where traction is also again very important. It seems that Hamish took it a little better there than Jack, but Jack is still a little ahead of Hamish. As we go to the line you can see that the difference is minimal, only 2/10. Coming to the end of this qualifying session, we see that Jack First manages to stick it on pole in the Ferrari with a 121.031, followed by AOR Hamish in the Merc, 0.227 seconds off, followed by Thomas Irish AT in his McLaren, 3/10 off Jack First's time, which is very impressive. And if you can go look down the list, you will see that the top 10, even 11, is pretty much covered within 1 second of each other. Competitive times here on this track this weekend, so it should be a very close race soon. Burkhoff starts in 4th in the Force India, followed by Fat First in the Ferrari. MarcoFD starts in the Mercedes in 6th place, 6/10 shy of the pole time. MiniBlack starts in 7th place, just 8/10 off pole as well in the Sauber, followed by Klowitzki in the Lotus Renault. I think that's a good time from him as well, just 8/10. Double D in the Williams starts in 9th, 9/10 off pole, and we have Granu finishing up the top 10, also 9/10 off the pole time. Andrei starts in the Force India in 11th place, followed by DH, the teammate of Klowitzki, in the Lotus Renault in 12th. Ryan L83 starts in 13th in the Red Bull, followed by Canisbe, the teammate of MiniBlack, in the Sauber in 14th. Race Fanatic has the 15th slot on the grid in the Williams, and Crookie 22 couldn't make it this week, and he doesn't get to start at all for the race tomorrow. We now go to the main event with your commentators AETERNOUK UK and FakeGhostPirate.
The grid is formed up and it's race time for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's dry, of course, and Jack First's red Ferrari is on pole for the long run down to turn 1, but he's got the Mercedes of Hamish on his right. Who's your money on for leading the race into turn 2, Joe?
Well, I think it'll be very, very interesting between the two drivers on the front of the grid, but I think, you know, Hamish may be able to get the job done if he can get a good launch off the grid.
Yep, for sure, and the lights are coming on now. We've got 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and they're away. That was very quick. We're on board with MarcoFD, switching to Hamish now, and he's gotten a much better start than Jack First. No competition whatsoever. He's already pulled ahead. He's got his car in front of the nose of Jack First, and he is safely into the lead, into turn 1. We're on board with Burkhoff now, who's having a little bit of a look at Fat First, and the other Ferrari, oh no, and Jack First has spun right off the track at the exit of turn 2 there, and I'm pretty sure he's made contact with the barrier. We didn't actually see the collision, but based on his speed and trajectory, I'm going to go ahead and say that he is probably in the wall with some front wing damage. On board with Double D now in 5th position. Well, yeah, 5th position. Now MarcoFD in 6th position, just behind Double D. Oh no, and we've lost connection to Ryan L83, and Canisbe has gotten a penalty here. I'm wondering if that is going to be reviewed on account of Ryan disconnecting right around the time that happened. Thomas Irish has already jumped, oh, I'm sorry, no, he jumped Jack First when Jack First went into the wall, and he's now in 2nd place in his McLaren, running right behind Hamish, coming to the end of this first lap, and we've already lost a couple of cars, Joe.
Yeah, well, pretty good start to the race, well, at least for some drivers, one of them being Hamish, but it is very, very unfortunate to see, obviously, Ryan disconnect at such an early stage, as Thomas Irish now coming around the final corner in hot pursuit of Hamish, and this is going to be a very, very interesting battle, as the car's still looking in quite close proximity after the first lap. Obviously, Hamish has not got a huge lead yet, as we're now on board with Double D behind Burkhoff. Is he going to be able to get the move done into turn 1? No, he just sticks behind the Force India driver as he gets a little bit up on the curb there. Maybe going to take the outside line, and that turns to the inside now, but no, he's going a little bit out wide, and Burkhoff there really defending his position, but surely he's going to be helpless going into this turn now, and he does get the move done into the hairpin and on the exit. And Double D, that is him up into 4th position and is just behind Fat First, and well, if he can get the move done on him, he'll be up into a podium position. But as you can see, Hamish has in fact got a little bit of a lead up front, but the 3 behind him, Thomas Irish, Fat First and Double D have all, well, they're sort of in close proximity with each other, and we're still on board with the Williams driver Double D, and as we're now on board with Klavutsky, who's maybe going to make a move down the inside of MarcoFD. Does he? Yes, he does. That's a nice move from Klavutsky, and MarcoFD, the championship leader, I believe, is currently down in 7th position. So this could be a chance for maybe one of the other drivers up front to take advantage, and that could indeed be Hamish, who takes a big chunk out of Marco in the championship.
Yep, for sure. Marco is on the prime tires, but there is not a massive difference between the medium and the hard compound tires in this game. Talking a few tenths of a lap, even for a circuit such as this one. Thomas Irish now coming under attack on both sides into turn 1. The Ferrari gets ahead of him, and Double D has lost out heavily. He loses that position to Burkhoff that he earned just last lap going into turn 4 here as we enter turn 4 once again. Klowotsky with some very late braking on Burkhoff there, takes the position, moves up into 4th position just behind Thomas Irish stage, and he does it again. In another dive bomb into turn 5, 2 positions in 2 corners. Klowotsky, the German driver in the Lotus, he is charging through this field, and now Burkhoff is smelling weakness in Thomas Irish, and he's going to go ahead and drop him down yet another position, and it looks like Double D as well is attacking Thomas Irish as we saw Burkhoff look behind him, and we're changing now to the back of the grid with the 2 Saubers of Canisbe and MiniBlack. Canisbe on the option tires. He's going to need to get by MiniBlack here, and he does. And he's going to need to pull out a gap as well if he's going to have any hope of beating his teammate here in this race. Already a pretty big gap to Jack First up ahead of him. Crucially, though, Jack First still in this race, so whatever damage he might have incurred in that lap 1 incident, it did not force him into the pits, thankfully for him.
Yeah, well, it's certainly been a very interesting first few laps, and obviously the Ferrari drivers are going to be very mindful of what's going on around them. But now, as we can see, that's Double D, who's down in 7th, defending once again, this time from MarcoFD, who's on the prime tyres, as you just said, Justin. But obviously, you know, he's going to still be looking to get as far up the grid as possible, just to keep in contact with his teammate come the latter stages of the Grand Prix. But Double D now is sort of pulled out a little bit of a gap on Marco after that pit straight, and he's going to be looking to try and get past Andrei as quickly as possible. Because obviously, you know, he had such a good start to the race, but he slipped down into 7th position as we're now on board with Burkov, who's going to be looking to try and get past Klavutsky, who's currently having a very good season so far in that Lotus. But Burkov getting onto the gravel there, although he is on the DRS, he maybe could have looked at a move on Klavutsky if he'd have maybe been, you know, a little bit better and neater on the throttle. But Burkov now coming round this long right-hander, taking it in 2nd gear, and now shifting up the gears as we come to this very technical final sector. Very challenging for a lot of the drivers, just to try and it's sort of a very precise sector to get right. And Burkov has been a little bit scruffy through that last sector, but you know, he's so eager to try and get past Klavutsky, and it's going to be interesting to see whether he can do that in the next few laps.
Yeah, crucially though, he did manage to at least sneak DRS, which is going to be very important for him trying to keep up with Burkov. Thomas Irish here is defending from Andrei Codranu. Andrei had a little look at the outside of turn 1. Thomas Irish holds on to that position. Double D with a great view of that battle just ahead of him, with MarcoFD not far behind him. We're going to get a split time right now. Yeah, MarcoFD just half a second behind Double D, which is about what it was this time at this point last lap. So Double D unfortunately not making any headway as far as getting MarcoFD away from the back of him. He does seem to be a little bit closer to Andrei in the Force India, the Mercedes-powered Force India, just ahead of this Mercedes-powered Williams, just up the road. Seems a little bit closer. He's going to get DRS at the top of this hill, as there's a little bit of an oversteer moment there as he clipped the inside curb for turn 9 there, coming down into the turn 10 hairpin. I'm surprised we're not seeing more overtaking there. We're on board now with Hamish in first place at the moment, and it does seem that he has maybe gotten the Ferrari of Fat First out of his DRS zone. I'm not sure if we're going to have any footage of Fat First from his point of view, but for sure Hamish has developed a visible gap. You can really see it on the mini-map there, 2.6 seconds to the Ferrari behind him, and Hamish is definitely looking like he might just run away with it at this point if he can have a clean race. Andrei Codranu with the DRS overtake on Thomas Irish heading into turn 1, and he's pulled off that maneuver fairly easily, moved himself up in his 5th position, and now Thomas Irish coming under attack from Double D.
Yeah, well, lovely move from Andrei there, who's really moving up the field nicely for him. But it's an interesting point you actually make about Hamish, who has obviously got that 2.6 second lead up front, and his teammate Marco, who, yeah, as we've already said, is on the prime tyre. But it's going to be very difficult for him to close that gap on Hamish, seeing as there are so many cars in between him and Hamish, being 6 cars in between them, I believe. And even come the latter stages of the race, when Marco's going to be on the faster tyres, he's going to have to try and dispose of Double D, as he's looking to come into this DRS zone. But Double D does get that DRS on Thomas Irish, who is down in 6th place. But Marco, as you can see, is looking very eager, as Double D has a horrible moment there coming into the hairpin, and Marco takes a look down the inside. Double D will have the inside line, but it looks like he's struggling already, as you can see, his scheduled pit stop is lap 7. But Marco is going to be trying to go deeper into this race, and he really did want to get that move done as quickly as possible. And now next up on his list is someone coming into the pits there, and who I'm not quite sure who it is actually. It's Thomas Irish, who he did look to be struggling after a pretty good start for him, getting up into 2nd place, I believe, momentarily. But now, as you can see, he is coming into the McLaren pit box. How's the stop going to be from the McLaren guys? It is a 3.7 pit stop, so very, very standard stuff from the McLaren guys. And it's going to be interesting to take a look at his progress come the later, or at least come the end of the pit stops, isn't it, Justin?
For sure, and he also does seem to be an early stopper. If I'm remembering correctly from China, I do believe that he was one of the earlier stoppers in China as well. So that does seem to be his sort of preferred strategy in these races. Klawitsky now in that third place position. He is not content with just a podium. He wants to push for the win, and he is going to pressurize Fat First into turn 1. He's got the outside line, inside line for turn 2, all over the curbs. He's not had a great turn 2. Fat First moves back ahead, and I'm wondering if he's going to try and move back to the inside there. It looked like he might, as Double D comes into the pits at the end of lap 7. And Klawitsky did indeed try it again at turn 4, but unfortunately could not pull it off. So he's going to have to pretty much sit behind Fat First for the next few corners. After turn 9 at the top of the hill, of course, is the second DRS activation zone, and he will have another shot this lap to try and overtake Fat First, but certainly overtaking locations are limited on this circuit. I'd say we're limited down to turn 1, turn 4, and the hairpin at turn 10, which we're approaching now, and Andrei running a little bit deep there, getting his wheels into the gravel. He's going to defend the inside line from Marco here. Marco's going to try around the outside of this turn 10 hairpin, and he's actually pulled it off. He's actually managed to hang around the outside. It's going to give him the inside line for turn 12 here, and he moves up into 5th position with relative ease. Very surprising there, as DH1806 now as well getting into the mix, the other Lotus driver. They seem to be having a good race at the moment. One driver with a podium and another driver in 7th. That would certainly be nice for their Constructors Championship. Klawitsky still running behind Fat First there. You can see the gap to Hamish pretty large there. Klawitsky now pitting at the end of lap 9. Certainly he is pitting earlier than some and later than others as well. So he comes in, and just like with the other pit stops, he is going to put on another set of the options, but he's been held. He's lost at least a second in the pit stops there. That was nearly a 5-second pit stop. And we get a 3.6 second pit stop just behind him. So that's certainly not going to be good for his race.
No, definitely not. But as you can see here, it's that DH1806, maybe taking a look at Andrei. We haven't seen much of DH this race, as we've got a replay now of Thomas Irish carving his way through the field after his early pit stop. And, well, it's going to be very interesting to actually see these different strategies play out. Obviously, you know, we had Thomas Irish pitting as early as lap 6, I believe. But we've still got some drivers running on lap 10, and well, I'd be interested to hear what you say, Justin. Well, you know, what sort of strategies do you think people will be running?
Yeah, I mean, with Thomas stopping at the end of lap 6, that's got to make me wonder whether or not he's going to be going onto a 3-stop strategy. I do imagine most of the drivers are going to be looking to do a two-stop strategy, especially with a lot of the drivers going. I mean, here we are at the end of lap 10, and we're just getting Burkhoff into the pits, for example, and he's going on to another set of the options. So it's certainly seeming to me like a number of drivers are going to be at least going for an option prime 2-stop strategy, as Double D with the DRS gets the inside line on MiniBlack. The Saubers definitely having a bit of a rough time today. This really does not seem to be a track that suits them very well, as Andrei Kajanu as well is going to try and find a way around MiniBlack, who is still on his first stint on that set of prime tires. Andrei's got the options, and he's got the inside line. MiniBlack gives him room. Very respectful driving from MiniBlack there. I think he could have rightfully shut the door on Andrei there, but he went ahead and gave him the room, and Andrei took the position. And now here's the other Force India of Burkhoff trying to follow in his teammates' footsteps and get past the Sauber of MiniBlack as quickly as he can. We're coming up the hill now through the very high-speed turn 9. Little bit of a lift for Burkhoff as he's in that dirty area. He's got the DRS activated, but of course so does MiniBlack, so he's not going to be able to find a way past on this occasion.
No, that turn 10 hairpin, it seems to be, you know, it's an overtaking opportunity that we've seen quite a lot in the past, try and moves at, but we haven't seen too many today. Obviously, Marco going around the outside on one occasion, but yeah, I was expecting a lot more down at that hairpin. Obviously, you know, a lot of drivers are probably going to be saving themselves for the pit straight, because if they overtake at that turn 10 hairpin, they're liable to be under threat come this very long pit straight, one of the longest on the calendar, and now Burkhoff is going to be trying that same move into turn 1 and 2, and he's got the DRS on MiniBlack, who is still, like you say, struggling on those prime tyres, on his first set of prime tyres, but Burkhoff goes very, very deep. I think he does manage to make the move stick just about, and now there is no cars between himself and his teammate, but he has lost invaluable time sitting behind MiniBlack for quite a while, it has to be said. But yeah, he's 2.8 behind his teammate, so he's going to be looking to close that gap in the next few laps, as he is on the option tyres, so he's gonna have to go on the prime tyres at some point in this race. But I think, I'm not quite sure what his teammate, I'm not sure quite what tyres Andrei's on. I'm not sure whether you know, Justin, what tyres he's on.
I believe he is on the options, and crucially, he does seem to have pulled out a pretty large gap. This time, at this point in the track, last race or last lap, he had MiniBlack getting DRS off the back of him, and then here we are 1 lap later, and there's a 3-second gap between Burkov and Andrei, as Hamish does come into the pits finally for his first stop, and MarcoFD, his teammate, takes the lead of the race. But yeah, the Force India of Andrei really seems to be doing well on this new stint. It really seems to be flying, and crucially for his teammate, he got MiniBlack out of that DRS range. Quali with a amazing move up the inside of Thomas Irish HD, who must have jumped him with that early pit stop. So Thomas Irish seems to have maybe a pretty good strategy, if not the best pace in comparison to Quali, but he does seem to have a pretty good strategy, as he did seem to jump some cars in the pit stop phase. Here we are at the end of lap 13, 20 laps still remaining in this race, and MarcoFD is in for his stop, and it is going to be a set of the options, and I think he's going to try and do roughly 10 laps on that set of tires, and then put on another set of the options at the end for another 10-lap stint. As Andrei Cadranu having a look at Double D, as I mentioned before, he really seems to be enjoying this new set of boots that he's got on the car, and he moves himself up into 4th or 5th position. He's up yet another place is the point, as Thomas Irish HD comes in at the end of lap 13 for yet another stop. So I think that is confirmation that the McLaren driver of Thomas Irish is indeed doing a 3-stop race.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see sort of what pace he's got at the end of the race. But, you know, having 2 stops at the end of lap 13, when some drivers are only just coming in for their first stops, and Hamish, it looked as if he managed to take his tyres a very long way into this race, pitting at the end of lap 12, I believe. And obviously that you know, having no dirty air in front of him probably, or sorry, no cars in front of him and no dirty air probably, you know, worked to his advantage. And his teammate MarcoFD, who was running in that dirty air, only managed to go 1 lap further than him on the prime tyres. But this middle stint, it looks as if Double D is on the prime tyres, but a lot of cars, it looked as if they're on the option tyres, one of them being Burkov, who's going for a move down the inside of Double D. Very aggressive there, but that is giving Marco the opening he needs into the final couple of corners, into the chicane, and Marco does manage to get the move done on Burkov just about. Once again, quite an aggressive move, but Burkov there is going to be so disappointed, looking as if he was going to get up to 5th, and he's ended up that corner in 7th place, and Marco is not done there. Is he going to get the move done on Double D? Yes, he is. He is storming through this field, and he is, well, he's definitely keen to get up with his teammate Hamish, but he's got Andrei in his way up in 4th position, who's having a pretty good race for himself, and obviously Burkov is going to be looking to get up through the field. His teammate, who has been on pace with Andrei all weekend so far, so he's going to be disappointed that there are a few cars in between himself and Andrei. But this middle stint really has been kind to him and not to Burkov so far. But yeah, I was saying about the option tyres, it looks as if there are a lot of drivers on the option tyres in this middle stint, so it could be interesting to see what Double D does in that final stint, obviously himself being on the prime tyres, and at the moment meaning he'll be on the options in the middle stint, but Burkov wants to get that move done whilst he's on the fresher and faster compound of tyres, but Double D is having none of it. He is sticking to his inside line, but Burkov now just about gets in front of the Williams and is going to be trying to sort of make full use of those option tyres. Double D going a bit wide on the penultimate turn. But is he going to get DRS now, or is it going to be Burkov? No, it is Double D. He was behind at the detection point, and Marco is trying to make a move on Andrei. It is all going on at this stage of the race. There really is no respite, but Marco has to go off the track. Is he going to give the place back to Andrei? I think he is. Well, Andrei's ahead at the moment.
Just barely.
Yes, and Marco looks as if he's going to have another go now into the hairpin, but Andrei does make the move, but it's not done there. It is still going on, and Marco is trying to make that move round the outside. Is he going to get it done? Surely not. As they bang wheels on Marco's round. Oh my god, he's done a 180-degree spin, and that is going to lose him numerous positions. He is going to be absolutely devastated with that.
Yep, that is certainly not what Marco was hoping for. I mean, there was some contact. He was kind of rubbing up against the inside at that turn 5 hairpin, yeah, I think just kind of there was a strange bit of contact, and his car did not approve of it. He does seem to have recovered pretty well, though. He's only in 7th at the moment, so he doesn't have any major damage. He hasn't dropped out of the points or anything like that. He's still hanging in there, and he still has fantastic pace. So even though Marco may not be a challenger for the lead anymore, he certainly has a strong opportunity to earn some good points for the Mercedes team. We're at the end of lap 20 now, and Andrei Codemasters is coming into the pits. I do imagine that he is going to be going onto the prime tires, as he and there we get confirmation that he is in fact going onto that set of prime tires. So he's going to be looking to do a 13-lap stint, same as Marco did, but crucially, this 13-lap stint is going to be on a rubbered-in track. So Andrei is going to have a little bit better tire life at the end of this stint versus Marco, who was running around on those primes on a very and was that double D?
I think it was. Oh, it was just when he was in the pit. Yes, it is. Yep, that's confirmation of it.
Yep, so I guess he came into the pits and the team retired him to some sort of technical problem. They decided that was enough. Andrei Codemasters currently in 10th after his second pit stop and at the beginning of lap 21, and he has an enormous gap ahead and behind of him. Thomas Irish HD is running ahead of him, and Thomas into the pits right now at the end of lap 23. It does look like this is his 3rd stop, obviously, so he was running a 3-stop strategy. He's going on to another set of the primes, though. That's interesting for a 10-lap stint here at the end of the race. It's another 3.7-second pit stop for the McLaren boys. He's down in 10th already. He's got MiniBlack behind him. MiniBlack's coming down the straight right now. This is for a single point-paying position. MiniBlack's got the top-end speed, and he just cruises by. Crucially, though, Thomas Irish, of course, has this brand new set of rubber on his car. But to counteract that, MiniBlack is on a set of the option tires right now with that alternate strategy. So Thomas Irish is maybe going to have a little bit of difficulty, but no, he shoots up the inside, and it looks like there's been a similar sort of incident with MarcoFD, and MiniBlack has just spun right off the circuit at the outside of turn 4 just because of very, very light contact with Thomas Irish. And no, Thomas Irish, it would appear, yes, he is slowing down to let MiniBlack back through. That is fantastic sportsmanship to see. Obviously, that's going to be very detrimental to both of their races. Interestingly enough, Klawitsky comes up just behind his teammate, but his teammate has to pit. So the Lotus boys running alternate strategies there, which is very helpful so that there's no confusion in the pit lane. Thomas Irish lets MiniBlack back through and then takes that position straight back. Meanwhile, MarcoFD has a 6.2-second pit stop and comes out of the pits with DH1806 right behind him.
Yeah, well, Marco is he just doesn't seem to be having any luck at the moment, does he? Obviously, with that 180 spin and then a long pit stop, it's looking as if it's going to be a long afternoon for the Dutch driver. But he's got a nice 9-lap stint on these option tyres now. But he's got, obviously it's a rubbered-in track, but taking these 9 laps has proved pretty difficult for some drivers. One of them being Thomas Irish. But maybe Marco will be able to do it. We know he's a very skilled driver, so I'm sure that he will be able to do everything he can to maybe catch Jack first. But yeah, well, it's going to be pretty interesting to see who takes those podium positions, because all afternoon it's been there's been a lot of battles up in the sort of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th place region, and this is Hamish coming in for his final stop of the afternoon, and he has a look and sees that pretty much everybody has pitted. And he's got a 26-second lead to Klawitsky as he comes into the pit lane. So that should be bags as the Mercedes team do deliver him a decent stop. And, well, it looked as if he pressed pause there and maybe lost a little bit of speed out of the pit entrance. But he's still got a very decent lead over Klawitsky, who has put in a fantastic drive so far this afternoon. with Fat First just behind him. And in fact, it's just jumped Klovutsky as I was talking about that. And, well, he's up to second position now. And, well, I think this is going to be sort of telling us about what happened on the move. And you can see Klovutsky going up into Rich, but behind him is Fat First, and he'll obviously have that DRS available to him. And there we go, there is the move that's done, and Fat First gets up to second position. I did not expect myself to spot such a move happening, but I did in fact spot that Fat First is up to second, and there is confirmation of it. But Andrei is running in 4th place, and his pace in the middle stint has really put him in contention for some good points this afternoon. But for Hamish, it's looking like a reasonably easy afternoon for him so far. He's got a 3.4 second gap to Fat First, so he's just got to keep it together on this final stint. Obviously on those option tyres, and I think they're newer than everybody else's as well. So it's been a comfortable afternoon so far for Hamish, but I don't want to curse him just yet. Although it looks as if he should be able to at least score some good points and put up a good fight if Fat First maybe does get back to him with those newer tyres. But Marco is keen to get past Burkov at this stage of the race with 8 laps left in the Grand Prix. Marco goes up the inside, but Burkov is fighting as hard as he can, but he is helpless to Marco and his option tyres, as Fat First is putting up a very good fight as he puts in the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, a 121.9. Possibly the first of the drivers to get into the 121s, but Hamish does still lead this Spanish Grand Prix.
Yep, and he's into the very low 122s. Oh, wow, and Jack First does one better on his teammate, goes a 10th faster with a 121.8. So the Ferraris are absolutely flying in this final stint here. Jack First obviously very disappointed not to be winning this race based on his starting position. But Klovutsky, he's been having a pretty good race up until this point, where he runs off the track at the exit of turn 9. But thankfully, there is an absolutely enormous gap to Andrei behind. He's obviously both Force India is looking very good. Double points finish for Force India is looking very likely here. Burkov, whoa, as Granu comes out of nowhere. Who I don't think we've mentioned a single time during this race. I don't think we mentioned Granu at all as we lose connection to MiniBlack as well. We're down to 11 drivers in this racing. I'm not sure if that was some sort of connection issue from Granu that caused that, because that was very strange indeed, and that certainly could be lag related. Burkov, though, going to be very disappointed. I think Burkov was in 5th. And then he was passed by Jack First and dropped down to 6th. And then he was passed by Marco, dropped down to 7th. And at some point here, he was clearly passed by DH1806, and now he's way down in 8th. So I believe the Force Indias were running 4th and 5th just a few laps ago, but currently at the moment it's only 4th and 8th. And Andrei Cutranu is coming under immense pressure from Jack First, who just set the fastest lap of the race not too long ago. He's up into Rich Mix. He's a little wide through the final corner. Jack First is definitely going to be in Rich Mix as well. He's got the slipstream, he's got the DRS, and I'm wondering if it's going to be as easy as last time. And he's got the inside line for turn 1. All he needs to do now is nail his braking, and it should be easy as pie, right? No, maybe not. He sticks it around the outside though at turn 2, but now MarcoFD is taking advantage of the situation, gets by Andrei. He's having a look at Jack First. He's got the inside line for turn 4. He brakes late, just as late as the Ferrari, and moves himself up into P4 after spinning out of this race. What a fantastic drive from Marco.
Well, that was a superb overtake from Marco, taking full advantage of the squabble in front of him. But obviously they've been now left trailing in his wake, and Jack First, who's been quietly going about his business all afternoon. And Andrei is going to be very disappointed, but he doesn't seem to have really had that much pace in this final stint. That middle stint was really where he put himself in contention for some good points, but seems to have dropped back quite considerably, and maybe not quite in the groove with these prime tyres. So, like you just said, Justin, the points for Force India, it was looking as if they were going to have an extremely strong points haul, whereas now it's looking as if they're only going to get sort of maybe 12 or 15 points from this race. So DH1806 is between the two Force India drivers, I believe, so that leaves Burkov down in 8th. So, you know, that would leave, what, 12 points for the Force Indias, when it could have been over 20 points for them. But we're now on board with Klovutsky, and we're in the final lap of the race now. He's 11 seconds behind Fat First. who is just behind Hamish. But MarcoFD is just 1.7 seconds behind as he slides through that first corner, and he's going to be feeling the pressure most certainly from Marco. And Marco is, like I've just said, hunting down Klavutsky, and he senses blood here most definitely. And as he comes through the hairpin, the gap's down to 1.3, and I'm going to leave it to you, Justin, to talk us through these final few corners or so.
Yeah, he's getting very close. Obviously, crucially, he's going to need to find 4/10 just over the course of the next 3 or 4 corners or so, with that final DRS activation point in between turns 9 and 10, through turn 7, up the hill after turn 8. Here's the very high-speed turn 9, and it looks like he has done it. It certainly looks like less than a second,
wow.
And it does. He's got the DRS. He's down into lean mixture, interestingly enough. I'm wondering if he's not confident. Klavutsky with some more oversteer, and there's been very slight contact between them. Hamish comes across the line to win this race, his second race win in a row now, 2 on the trot. Klavutsky defending with all of his might, with all of his skill and talent, just putting it all to the best use that he possibly can through this very tight, twisty section. And MarcoFD, just to seal the deal, gets a little bit of oversteer at the exit of turn 15, and Klavutsky hangs on to that final podium position, which I'm sure he is going to be thrilled with. Very tough final stint for Klavutsky there, but very nice racing from him. Andrei does hold on to 6th place at least, so that's going to be 8 points for his championship. Burkov did end up losing that position to Granu, and so he will be coming home in 9th with just a couple of points. So yeah, only 10 points for Force India in this race, when, like you said, they could have had 22 points when they were in their 4th and 5th finishing positions. Thomas Irish comes home in 10th to grab the final championship points, and there's our winner, Hamish. After putting in a 45-minute, 56-second race, he does win the Spanish Grand Prix ahead of Fat First, who was 8.2 seconds back in the end. Klavutsky a further 11 seconds behind Fat First, completing the podium positions, with MarcoFD less than a second behind Klavutsky. Jack First did well to recover from his turn 1, turn 2 incident on lap 1, and he finished 25 seconds behind the leader in 5th place. So a nice haul of points for Ferrari. Not quite as much as Mercedes, of course, but nice haul of points for Ferrari. Andrei Codranu, of course, was in 4th, finishes in 6th, about 7 seconds behind Jack First, and just 5 seconds ahead of DH 1806. Another great race for the Lotus boys in 3rd and 7th, really doing everything they can for their championship, looking very good for them. Granu finishes in 8th. Not a very exciting race for Granu, not a lot going on, but he did well to get a nice points finish, double points finish, of course, for McLaren, with Thomas Irish taking that final point, with Burkov splitting the 2 McLarens and taking a couple of points for his championship. Not a great race for Sauber at all. Obviously, Canisbe finishing in the final position of 11th, but unfortunately his teammate MiniBlack didn't even get to finish the race, unfortunately, because of his disconnect, along with Double D and Ryan L83. So let's see how it looks in the Drivers' Championship now.
Yep, Hamish is still leading the Drivers' Championship, but Hamish has indeed closed the gap on his teammate, with Fat First moving down into 3rd position, and Klavutsky also moving down to 4th, so it's been a very, very good weekend for Hamish, jumping from 4th up to 2nd, I believe. Race Fanatic, although he didn't finish this race, does remain in 5th place in the standings, but there is a huge gap between himself and Klavutsky, and Granu has closed that gap on the Williams driver. He is up to 27 points and up to 6th place in the standings, with Double D moving down in the other Williams to 26 points. He occupies 7th place, with Jack First in 8th place, and moves up the standings, but he will most certainly want to be moving further up the standings as the season progresses. MiniBlack is down in 9th position. Not a great weekend, as you said, for the Saubers, but DH 1806, in a double points finish once again for the Lotus boys. He is currently occupying 10th in the standings, with Andrei Codranu finally having a decent weekend, showing that he definitely has the pace, and he moves up to 11th in the standings, with Ryan L83 with his unfortunate disconnection, meaning he moves down to 12th position, and Canisbe also moving down into 13th. Thomas Irish HD moving into the relegation zone now, into 14th position with just 9 points, and Burkov currently has just 3 points this season, and Crookie 22, well, he'll be looking to at least get his season started sooner rather than later. He currently hasn't scored a point in the championship, but I'm sure that will change in the near future, and let's see how that result sort of makes the constructors' standings look.
Well, as you would imagine, Mercedes is absolutely dominating the championship right now with a 68-point lead, 171 points to Ferrari's 103. Lotus, as we mentioned, keeps on scoring good points race after race. Good consistency from the Lotus boys. They are hanging in there for that second place position, just not that far off of Ferrari. 17 points separating them, with Lotus sitting on 86 points. Williams at the moment with 55. Not a lot of movement, mind you, in the Constructors' Championship this week. Not near the top anyway. Williams with 55 points, McLaren with 36, adding to their total with a double points finish, even if not that much. Sauber makes no change on their points finish, but as you can see, they've been scoring an average of 7 points per race this season, and then here today in Catalonia, unable to add to their tally whatsoever, and Force India gets that little bit closer to Sauber with their double points finish, putting them on 16, actually doubling their points. They scored as much in Spain as they did in the entire season prior. So that's definitely a good sign for Force India, and I'm sure they're going to be looking to jump Sauber and possibly even McLaren in the near future. Red Bull dropping down into the final position. Certainly not a great race for them, with Crookie not attending and Ryan L83 disconnecting right at the beginning. Certainly not what they want to be doing for their championship. So that's how it looks for the constructors. Thanks everyone for watching. Fantastic race as usual. Really just surprising, shocking, dangerous. I mean, you could use any number of superlatives to describe the racing that we've seen today, and they would all be accurate. So next time out, it is going to be at Monaco, which is certainly one of the most challenging circuits on the calendar. And I mean, a lot of the drivers are even going to be struggling to finish the race, so it should be a pretty exciting one. Obviously, thanks to everyone for watching. For myself, Justin, and Joe, thanks for joining me. As always, really looking forward to doing the next one with you.
Yes, so am I, Justin. Obviously been fantastic working alongside you once again, and it will be so interesting to see how many cars do finish in Monaco, and well, it's going to be interesting to see whether the Mercedes can keep up their dominance that they've shown so far this season, or whether someone else is going to show their pace around the streets of the Principality. And like Justin says, we'll see you then. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.